Hey, welcome to the review nobody asked for. Today, we're taking a look at Like a Dragon Yakuza. Well, it got my ass again. I don't know why I keep falling for this shit. I can't help it. It's always like this snake oil salesman shit, or because I've been fat my whole life, it's like, oh, try this new thing to lose weight really fast, and they never can work. The hope that it will keeps me coming back. And the same hope goes for that they're going to do the video game adaptation right. Especially when they take very rich properties like Amazon did with Yakuza. There's so much to chew on. It's so rich, it's so crazy. Now, if you've never ever played a Yakuza game, let me tell you a little bit about it. Because as the games go along, it's crazier and crazier. So to understand the series is to love them, because it's really so unique. There's really nothing much else like it. Imagine a very cool Japanese mafia tale wrapped in a crazy world with so many unexpected turns. And I'm talking super unexpected that you just have no clue what lies ahead. And those turns come in the form of side missions. So you could be in the middle of chasing down a to kill him, and then you come across real life wrestlers in the game. Or maybe you have to teach a shy dominatrix how to mistreat men. Or you meet a well-dressed, strapping young lad in a business suit, and then he invites you to a club which turns out to be a club where grown-ass men can walk around in diapers and pretend to be babies. The possibilities are endless in these games. Kamurocho itself is a character. The amount of people and personalities and characters that are just littered throughout the whole series is amazing, and is something to behold. The main stories of the game is actually just half of it. The other half of the game, the exciting part of the game, comes in the side quests. That's where the craziness comes in. And it works because the serious mafia parts are good as well. So you have the marriage of beautiful mafia storytelling and then just outright craziness. And this show has none of that at all. They don't have the cool mafia story, and they don't have the crazy shit with men in diapers. Instead, it's barely a mafia story, and they did what they all do, which is just a mess. So before we get into it, if you guys can head down in the comment section, let me know what you guys thought about the Amazon Prime Yakuza show. What do you think about the series? What do you think about the games? Any and all thoughts, Yakuza, let me know down in the comments. Let's get into it. Part of the story follows Kiryu, which is our main guy, and he's being released from prison after serving a 10-year sentence. Now, my biggest issue in the damn show, and the thing that I hated the most, other than the scrambling of storytelling, are these time jumps. They did it throughout the whole show. We were constantly jumping from 1995 to 2005, but we actually go a little farther back than that sometimes. They're just jumping all over the place, and I really hated it because they're telling you 4 different stories all at the same time, and they keep injecting new shit, and we're jumping back and forth and putting things on hold, and then we go back to 1995, then we come back to 2005, and then this happened because this happened over here in 1995, and it's just simply all over the place. So in 1995, Kiryu is an orphan along with 3 other characters, his best friend Nishiki, Yumi, and Miho, who then decide to get some money to leave the orphanage, and they do this by robbing an arcade. Little did they know that the arcade was actually owned by the Yakuza. Kiryu offers up to join the Yakuza to repay them. They also include some bullshit about him trying to become the best underground fighter named the Dragon, and slowly, as he's fighting, he's building up his tattoo, which that's not at all how that works in the games. It's really not that deep. Yes, in Yakuza 0, there is the underground fighter storyline, but like always, they just made things that are actually not that important and just made a gigantic mess. The tattoo on his back is literally because his name is Kiryu, and Ryu means dragon. That's basically it. Yes, there's more to the lore, meaning that he is actually going to turn out to be somebody, but the show decided to ignore that and be more like, no, a fighter, a best fighter, I need tattoo in the back because I fighter. So that whole thing happens in 1995, and then in 2005, we're dealing with him trying to run away after his release. But one of his compias, Yumi, is in trouble, and after a whole bunch of bullshit, they end up getting caught up in trying to retrieve a van full of money that belonged to one of the clans, and if they don't, well, heads are gonna roll. And not only that, but there's gonna be an all-out war between the clans. So you would think that's enough to chew on, right? But no, they just keep injecting shit with every episode, putting other things in the back burner while introducing new storylines and subplot, like Yumi's sister and her niece are there running around. They try to give importance to the little girl, but it felt like the show didn't know how to do it, so they were just like, let's kidnap her, so that was a whole thing. Then Miho, the other orphanage girl, back in 1995, she's sick. She was made up to be Nishiki's sister for some reason. This whole storyline of them trying to get money to save Miho is a storyline from the game, but I don't know why they changed the name of his sister. That didn't make no sense to me. Miho is actually like some other store clerk, I think, from the game, but whatever. And if that's not enough, there's this demon guy running around killing Yakuza members, leaving a pentagram in their chest. They're also chasing down these white people for these stamps to get the land to build this giant pimpin' building. And this whole subplot is just a worse version of the Yakuza 0 story. But again, the way it's just done, just scrambled together, leaves you going like, huh? They do use some names that I recognize from the franchise, but they are super duper nerfed. The Yakuza itself doesn't feel like this very powerful empire like it does in the games. In the games, there's hierarchy, and like you move up the rankings, and it's definitely like showed the hierarchy within the Yakuza. Here it's just like a scramble of guys, and then some of those guys are some of like the underbosses of the Yakuza from the games, but they're just names that they threw at us. So if you're a Yakuza fan, you know of Kiryu's mortal enemy, Goro Majima. These two have a on-site relationship, if you will. Goro Majima is a crazy mo. He's a fun crazy mo, like a Joker type. You just don't know when is he gonna snap, but you know he's gonna snap, and he's just wild and super entertaining. He's a villain that we all love, and Sega knows this. We love him so much that Sega decided to make a new Like a Dragon game with Majima as a pirate in Hawaii, which looks absolutely insane and super duper fun. But the dynamic in the show between these two wasn't explored nearly as much as they needed to, and it was written poorly. Majima is like 20% level of crazy than he is compared to the games. This storyline was just fumbled horrendously between these two. They have a fight, but it's really lackluster. They needed to keep running into each other and fighting, kind of like a Peter Griffin in the chicken situation. But at least the cast was really good visually. Like the characters you needed to recognize, you recognize. I love the wardrobe for Kiryu. You immediately recognize his awesome suit. He looks like Kiryu, and to the actor's credit, he acted like him. Kiryu is this just silent badass type. He's kind of boring actually, but he's cool boring, like a Leon Kennedy kind of boring guy. He really is like a no-nonsense guy in a world full of nonsense. And that's supposed to be the contrast of the series. You have this very silent guy in this crazy world with shit going around. And for that reason is why he's really one note, and in the show he kind of is. The reason why you can have a boring, badass protagonist guy is because everything around him is supposed to be nuts. Kamurocho is supposed to be a character, almost the main character, because all the interesting shit happens there. And this is supposed to be coming in the form of side missions in the show. The show should have been 9 episodes instead of the 6, with 3 of those episodes just straight up being crazy ass side missions. He's on the way to go do something, and crazy shit just finds him. For example, he needs to go get information for somebody at a club, but for the club owner to give him the information, he needs him to be the bouncer for the night because the god called out. And we have a whole episode of him being the bouncer at a karaoke titty bar, for example, or having to help this nerdy dude with his pocket racing circuit. Just crazy shit, but we get none of that. So without the city, Kiryu is just boring. At least set-wise, it did look like the city. I recognized the city. I loved it. But we just don't spend enough time, and not enough crazy shit happens. There is a lot going on in the show, but at the same time, it feels like nothing is going on. Does that make any sense? The main question of the show doesn't really get answered till the very, very end. And then other questions that come up, their answers are just stupid. And other things just flat out make no sense at all. Why? Because it's all scrambled. They took pillars from the first game and then bits and pieces from other games, especially 0 and 2. And then on top of that, inserted things that don't belong. And then they focus on those things that don't matter. And then what they do, they keep adding shit to the story, moving away from what actually matters. And then there's not enough Yakuza shit. So they literally did nothing right in this show. Maybe just the wardrobe and the looks. Because if you just take away the craziness from the Yakuza game, you're still left with a pretty good mafia story. But they didn't deliver on that side either. I just found it to be a real giant mess. It's not a good show, even if you don't know about Yakuza, and I was left super disappointed. And it just goes down as yet another video game adaptation that fails to do the simplest thing in the world. Copy and paste the things that we already love.